everyone, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you guys tuning in today and checking out what's happening here on Fish Den 365. And today we're going to talk about the best big bass jig that I've ever used. It's something that I've come up with on my own, and I've caught a lot of big fish on it over the years. And it's really not so much the jig itself, it's what I'm using as the trailer that makes it special. And so we're going to show you what we do, how we set the trailer up, and how we make this jig. The jig that I'm using is a man's stone jig. It's got a triangular head. I like the stone jig because I can throw it in. It's kind of like a hybrid type jig where it can be thrown in multiple types of cover. It does well in grass, it comes over rock well, and you can get it through wood as well. So I don't have to be thinking about picking up different rods when I'm fishing different cover. If I'm fishing a lake that has a lot of cover and I'm trying to go through it all quickly. So I like the stone jig because it's a good general jig. The problem with the stone jig is it's no longer in production and it's getting harder and harder to get. But there are a number of other jigs out there that have a very similar shaped head. One of them is the Dirty Jigs Scott Canterbury jig. And another one that I'm aware of is the Picasso Spider Roundhead jig. Both of those jigs have the triangular head. The Scott Canterbury jig actually has those ridges like in the stone jig. The Picasso Spider Round is just a triangular head. It doesn't have those ridges in it. But again, the head shape is similar, so you could always use those. Generally, when I'm fishing this bait, 80–90% of the time I'm throwing half-ounce jig. Sometimes I'll use 3/4 in the summer when the water's warm and I want a faster fall. And if the water's cold, like early spring, I'll go down to 3/8 when I want a slower fall. But usually I'm throwing half-ounce. And the real trick to this jig is the trailer. It caught me so many fish over the years, I actually called it the magic jig because it just caught them so well under so many circumstances for me. And it tended to be a big fish jig as well. So the secret to the trailer is this, and I have to do a modification. We'll show you that in a second. And that mod has to do with cutting some of these appendages off. This is a Jean LaRue biffle bug. Now this is no longer available either, but it is because I think they must have sold the rights to Yum. Yum makes the exact same bait. It looks identical, and I didn't buy any of the Yum baits yet, but they look identical, so they're probably exactly the same. It's called the Yum Scutterbug. So you could still pick up this trailer, and the real secret is this real thin tail. So in the spring and in cold water, when the shad are dying, I like to pick up a jig that looks like a shad, like a white jig. This is great for early spring. This will be coming up come March and April, and this will come into play real well. So I'll take a biffle bug or a scutter bug that has some white and gray to it, a shad color to it, and I'll cut off these two side appendages and just leave it like that. And then I'm going to put this on as a trailer, and you could put this flat and you'll get a lot of action that way because the tail will move, but I like to make it look like a bait fish profile when it's coming through the water. So I don't put it flat. I actually have the hook going through the bait and coming out like it's a bait fish profile. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of mark, usually you want the hook on the half-ounce jig to come out right about where the third little spine is that comes out here. It makes it easy, and plus because this bait is hollow, it also makes it easy to put in to rig it with the hook. The only thing that makes it a little bit difficult is the wire guard. Sometimes that has a tendency to get in the way a little bit, so I'm just going to press it out of the way and push this in, bring it down. And it's really important that you get it right. You have the bait come out right where the seam is. And then you're left with a profile like that. And you want it right where the seam of the top of the bait, so that the bait works very nicely. It'll come through. It actually swims through the water. When it goes down, this tail has a very, very subtle flutter to it because look how soft that tail is. And when you swim it, when you lift it up, or even when you reel it back to the boat, that tail kicks. It has a little kick to it. subtle, but it's really how a fish looks when a fish is actually swimming. So this is my shad profile that I like to use in early spring. And then I like a bluegill profile in the summer quite a bit when I'm fishing where there's bluegill. So I'll use a bait that has some green and blue in it, and I'll pick a biffle bug like this one that has some green pumpkin and blue in it, and do the same thing. Cut those legs off, and then we just put this on in the same way, and now I've got a bluegill pattern. It works really well in lily pads, in milfoil. You want to throw these jigs around covered. They do very well. I leave the weed guard like it is because I like to throw it in brush, fallen trees. Both the shad color works well in the spring, and then in the summer I like the bluegill color in the trees. But anytime you're fishing fallen trees and you're just kind of yo-yoing it through the branches, boy, I've gotten some of my best bites that way. Great bait to use in milfoil. A deep milfoil, shallow milfoil, inside edge, outside edge, in the midst of it. I'll throw it everywhere because you want that bigger fish profile, that sunfish or bait fish profile coming through, and it really does look good in the water. It has a really nice natural look to it. And then again, I really like to throw this in lily pads. I got away from fishing these in the last few years a little bit because where I fish there's a lot of pressure, and I just kind of got away from jigs in general and started throwing other baits. But this past year, late summer and especially in the fall, I got back to throwing it, especially on my home lake, and I'm glad I did because I was using it in some pads on one of the last, it was actually the last lunker tournament of the year, and that bait won me $355 at the end of the lunker tournament season. So it was kind of fun throwing that one and catching that fish on it. So when and where should you throw this bait? Like what are some of the situations? I like this bait wherever you're fishing pressured water. A lot of the lakes that I fish are pressured, heavily pressured, and they see a lot of presentations. And I feel that if I throw a jig that has a trailer that has a lot of thump, like sometimes you have those crawfish trailers that have the thump and a lot of movement, I think sometimes the fish can get a little conditioned to that if it's heavily pressured. And so that's when I'll throw this. Even in the summer, this is much more subtle. That tail kicks, but it's a real subtle kick. And sometimes I'm zigging when other people are zagging, and you'd be surprised how many big fish I've caught in the middle of summer on this thing. It just looks like a real bait fish down there, and it's hard for those fish to resist. It doesn't give off many negative cues. So that's a time that I'll use it. Now, if I was fishing a lake that wasn't heavily pressured, I'd probably use a trailer that had more action to it, something that would get their attention, because when that water is warm, everything is more active and more movement is taking place. Except you don't want all that movement if there's a lot of pressure on the lake you're fishing, because it gets to be too much. The fish get a little shy to it. That's when this jig can be really good. I like it in stained water. It could be good in clear water as well. So I would say clear to fairly heavy stain, this jig works well. And then again, in the cold water months, it's really good. It's really good when that water starts to get down through the 60s, 50s. And so in the fall, right through late fall, it's very good. And it's also good again early in spring, and when the fish first start coming shallow. If they don't quite want a swim jig, or if they're not quite on the chatterbait or squarebill yet, this is a good thing to throw around. It has a real slow, you can put a 3/8 ounce jig on, because this trailer's hollow, it slows the fall down, so it looks like kind of an injured shad or bait fish. And so I've gotten some of my bigger spring fish that way. Great little trailer, great little jig. If you want to learn to throw a jig and you really want to catch fish on it with the chance of getting a lunker as well, this is a really good one to try with this trailer. But the key is the trailer. Well, I hope you liked the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hype the video. And if you'd like to see a video where I use this as a trailer on a different type of bait, take a look with this one right here. That thing catches fish like crazy as well. Until next time, be safe out there. Hope to see you on the water, and as always, may God bless your fishing endeavors.